This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We're ready in the 9 days. Tisha B'Av is coming up. And this year we have a unique feature of Tisha B'Av, that Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos. I remember when I was turning 13 years old, it was the week before my bar mitzvah. And that year, Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. My bar mitzvah was going to be Parshas V'aschanan. And the Shabbos was Tisha B'Av, and it came to shul, the shul that my bar mitzvah was supposed to be in, and the shul burnt down on Tisha B'Av. Oh. The Aguda of Elon 29th, it burnt down on Tisha B'Av. Shabbos came out on Tisha B'Av that year. I had to have my bar mitzvah. I had to find a shul for my bar mitzvah. But so this year, Shabbos is Tisha B'Av. Shabbos is Tisha B'Av. And the question is, are we noheg any avelos on Shabbos? Or do we say, no, Tisha B'Av is completely pushed off? So this is a major sugya, really a phenomenal sugya. And in understanding exactly what happens to Tisha B'Av when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. The Rosh, Masechta Tainis on Ois Lamed Beis. The Rosh quotes the Tosefta. Chali Ois Tisha B'Av b'Shabbos, Oichal Adam Kol Tzarkoi. If Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you could eat whatever you want. Umalau Shulchanai Afilu Kesuda Shloimei b'Shaitai. You could have a Suda like Shlomo HaMelech in his greatness. Ve'enoi meinei ma'atzmai klum. Nothing needs to be withheld. You're allowed to have basar, you're allowed to have yayin. There's no inyan of curtailing. There's no inyan of, well, it's Tisha B'Av, so maybe it's not appropriate to indulge. No such concept. Kesuda Shloimei b'Shaitai. Says the Rosh Kaloimar she'enoi nimna mirachitza v'sicha v'tash v'shamita. None of the restrictions apply. Ve'en tzach linag dvarim shel tzina. You don't even have to be noyeg avelos b'tzina. We know that on Shabbos, if somebody's an avel, lo yaleinu, so you don't show public signs of mourning, but dvarim shel tzina, tash v'shamita is prohibited, but not on Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos. Says the Rosh, in the name of the Tosefta, that there is no inyan whatsoever of any sign of avelos at all. Even Dvarim Shel Tzina, even though nobody would know that you're praving avelos in private regards, the Rosh quotes the Tosefta, Ein Sarach Linag Dvarim Shel Tzina. However, Rabbeinu Meir, who's Rabbeinu Meir? The Rosh is Rabbi, the Maram Meir Rothenberg, Kasav, Behilchos Avelos Shaloi. The Maram Meir Rothenberg writes in his Hilchos Avelos, and the Maram quotes Kasav HaRabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina writes, who's Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina? The Rebbe of the Maram Meir Rothenberg, the Ar Zarua. The author of the Ar Zarua is Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Now, where would a nice tzaddik like Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina get a name Ar Zarua from? Well, the story goes, it's not a story, it's fact. Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina was writing Shemois Begittin. He was writing a work on how to spell names in document of divorce. We know the halach is if you misspell a name in a document of divorce, the get is possible. And he had a chakira, how do you spell the name Akiva? Do you spell it Ayin Kuf Yud Vez Hey? Or Ayin Kuf Yud Vez Aleph? And he went to sleep that night. And in his dream he saw the following pasuk. Oyer, Zarua, La Tzadik, Ula Yishrei, Leiv, Simcha. And he saw that he's like, why is Rebbeinu Shalom showing me this pasuk? Because the Soifei Tevois of the pasuk, Or Zarua La Tzadik Yishrei Simcha, Rebbe, Or Reish, Zarua, Ayin, La Tzadik, Kuf, Ula Yishrei, Yud, Leiv, Vez, Simcha, Hey, Rebbe Akiva, with a Hey, we see from here, you spell Akiva with Hey, we don't pass it that way. We spell with an aleph. We don't pass it that way, right? But anyway, that was the dream he had, and he followed it lahalacha. Followed lahalacha. By the way, there are other remazim to Akiva, and the Chidah brings down the Shem from the Arizal. Midei Avir Yaakov spells out Avir Yaakov spells out Akiva, Rebbe Akiva with an aleph. Okay, it's a whole sugya. But his name was Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. The Maram Meir Rothenberg quotes Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, the Tisha B'Av shechal liyos b'Shabbos, af al pi she'anu doichen oisay ad lamach, even though we push it off, oisay hayoim asur b'tash mishamita. On that day, Tvarim Shabbatzina are asur. Marital relations are asur. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Why? Midi dahavi akoiver mesoy beregel. It's like someone who buried a relative on a Yom Tif. What do we do with the avelos? We push it off. Sha'anu doichen avelos at achar regel. But nevertheless, even though the avelos is pushed off, dvarim shabetzina are osir on the Yom Tif. Bafilu hachi noyeg dvarim shabetzina beregel. The halacha is that Tashmish Hamita is osir on Yom Tif, even though the avelos is pushed off till after Yom Tif. Imkain, says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, quoted by the Marami Rotemer, quoted by the Rosh, Hachanami gabe Shabbazu, regarding the Shabbos, gabe Tisha B'Av, hu karegel, the asur, the Tashmish Hamita. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, because Tisha B'Av and avelos are very much similar. The Tisha B'Av avel shaychi ahadadi, kid Amar of Chizv Harakama the Tainis, ad kan l'shoyin moiri, says the Rosh. This is up to this point are the words of my Rebbe, the Marami Rotenberg, quoting his Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Now the Rosh chimes in, says the Rosh, Hadavra Yatsa Mipi Moiri. Excuse me, this is Marami Rotenberg talking. In other words, he just quoted Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Now Marami Rotenberg says, Hadavra Yatsa Mipi Moiri HaKadosh. My holy Rebbe said the above, and therefore everyone must follow this. One time a year, the destruction of Beis Hamikdash is enough to prevent one oina a year, one responsibility that a husband has to his spouse. The Churban Beis Hamikdash is strong enough to push off one oina. In other words, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, even though the avelos is pushed off till after Shabbos, nevertheless the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina is Dvarim Shabbatzina Tasha Shamita is Asar. Says Marami Rotenberg, Afal Pisha Yeshi Lahashiv. Even though there is what to be mafakbek, there is what to ask and to say, avelos is different than Tisha B'Av. The Tisha B'Av avelos chalukim. There are many differences between avelos and Tisha B'Av. Miyunachain lahachmer kedivrei moiri, says Marami Rotenberg, but my Rebbe said it's Asar. Then the halacha is afilu hu mekel v'ani machmer hayulanu lasas kedvarav. Even if he would be lenient and I would be the strict one, we would follow him. Kol shekain, all the more so. Shehu machmer. In this case, he's saying to be machmer. V'ani mekel, and I'm saying to be lenient. And therefore, the conclusion ad kan l'shon Meir, the Marami Rotenberg says you cannot disagree with my Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Devarim Shabbatzina, Tashmish Hamita is Asr on Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos. Just like if somebody became an Avel on the Regel, even though the Avelis is Nidche, Tashmish Hamita is Asr, so too, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, even though it's pushed off, Devarim Shabbatzina is Asr. This is the opinion of Marami Rotenberg. So now we would expect that the Rosh, following the example of his Rebbe, right? If Marami Rotenberg said, I defer to my Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, we would expect the Rosh to say, I defer to my Rebbe and my Rebbe's Rebbe. No, the Rosh is not as machnia. He says, what can we do? Mi ulashin toisefta masher she'en nimna. We started with the toisefta that says, afilu suda shloima b'shaito ye'enoi nimna. There's no restraint on Shabbos. Shabbos is no avelos. V'chein amo daber, and that is the minog. The minog is Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos. Shabbos is like any other Shabbos. It's like Shabbos of Shushan Purim. No difference. So we have ourselves over here is a big machlokas rishonim regarding Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos, whether any avelos is noyeg at all. Are we noyeg dvarim shabbatzina? Are we not noyeg dvarim shabbatzina? The Marami Rotenberg defers to his Rabbi Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Kedai hu beis elekenu la'abed olav oina achas b'shana. The Rosh, based on Tosefta, says no. The minhag is you can't touch Shabbos. Shabbos is untouchable. How do we paskin? Comes the Shulchan Aruch, Arachayim Siman Tav Kuf Nun Daled. Imchal Tisha b'Shabbos mutter b'chulan afilu b'tasha shamita. Shabbos is Shabbos. There is no avelos, even dvarim shabbatzina. He's passing like the Tosefta, according to the Rosh. Comes the Ramah, v'yesh oisrim tashma shamita, v'cheino, again, that's the minhag. That's the minhag. And at least by Ashkenazim, the minhag is v'yesh oisrim. But the question is, and what we want to iron out is, what is this machlokes over here? What's the machlokes? Everybody agrees that if Avelos comes out on a regal, you push off the Avelos, but Dvarim Shabbatzina is still noyeg. What's the machlokes whether you're noyeg Dvarim Shabbatzina on Shabbos that Tisha B'Av falls out on? What's the nekudas hamachlokes? So we're about to open up here is an entirely new understanding of what happens to Tisha B'Av when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. And this idea is introduced to us by the Shalosh Teshuvos Ksav Sofer Archaim Siman Kuf Aleph. If you remember, the Gemara Megillah on Daf Hey Amud says that one year Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, and Rabbi wanted to be Mevatel Tisha B'Av. Rabbi said, once it comes out on Shabbos, once we're pushing it off, just get rid of it completely. V'loi hoidu loi chachamim. The chachamim did not agree. The chachamim said it. Okay, it's not going to be on Shabbos, but we'll push it off to Sunday. That's one opinion. Rabbi wanted to push it off, remove it completely, and v'loi hoidu loi chachamim. Then there's another opinion, and that's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan in Masechta Tainis Chav Tesam Beis. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ilmalei hayisi sham, if I would have been around there, hayisi kaivai b'yud, I would have established Tisha B'Av on the 10th day of Av. Why? Ruba shel heichal nisraf b'yud. The majority of the Beis Mikdash burnt down on the 10th. They only ignited it at the end of the day on the 9th. But what do we hold? We hold ischalusa de paranusa adifa. We go by the beginning. Okay. So we have two interesting opinions. One is the opinion of Rabbi, who holds that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, what do we do? Get rid of Tisha B'Av. We're oiker Tisha B'Av completely. And the Chacham say, no, you push it up to Sunday. And that's how we paskin. And then we have the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan that if he would have been around, he would have made Tisha B'Av b'chlal on the 10th. So in other words, Rabbi Yochanan would love this year. Rabbi Yochanan loves when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. Why? Because he has what he wants. I say that half humorously, but we'll see, but seriously also. In other words, according Rabbi Yochanan, if Rabbi Yochanan was here, he would say, this year is Azoi Dar Tzuzan. This is the way it should be. This is the way Tisha B'Av should be. Okay. So, based on what we just mentioned, Ksav Sofer declares the following Chakira. And that is, when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos and you push it off to Sunday, how do we view it? Do we view it that really this year Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, but what can we do? You can't fast on Shabbos, so Sunday is makeup day. Sunday is rain delay. You know, if you had a ticket lahavdil and it was a rain out, so we'll honor your ticket for a special designated date, and that's Sunday. Or do we say, in other words, is Sunday makeup for Shabbos, or do we say no? It's not a makeup. Tisha B'Av cannot fall out on Shabbos. There's no such thing as Tisha B'Av on Shabbos. A year that Tisha B'Av fall out on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av that year is Sunday. Sunday is not makeup. Sunday is Tisha B'Av. Especially Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan would say, yeah, of course, it's not a makeup. Rabbi Yochanan wouldn't say it's a makeup. Rabbi Yochanan would say, okay, I'll give in to you that in a normal year you got to have Tisha B'Av on the day that commemorates when the fire was ignited. But if you can't do that, and Tisha B'Av is a Shabbos, so then Sunday is not a makeup. Sunday is the Etzem Tisha B'Av. In other words, is the Nidch Sunday a makeup day, or is Sunday the under the circumstances the L'chachila? Was it instituted to begin with on a Sunday when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos? So you say, what's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is Dvarim Shabbatzina on Shabbos. If you hold that Sunday is a makeup, but really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, so if really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, well, we can't wear shoes on Shabbos. We can't, take off our shoes on Shabbos. That's Avelos de Farhesia. We can't not eat on Shabbos. That's Avelos de Farhesia. You can't not wash your hands on Shabbos. That's Avelos de Farhesia. But Dvarim Shabbatzina, private matters, which is not B'Farhesia, then you have to be Noyeg because it's Tisha B'Av. Sunday is only a makeup. Sunday is not Tisha B'Av. Sunday is a makeup for whatever things you could not be Noyeg on Shabbos. So therefore, Dvarim Shabbatzina would be Aser. That's the opinion of what? Of the Maram Meir Rotenberg. That's the opinion of the Arzaror Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, that really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. But what could you do? You need to make up certain things on Sunday. But the Rosh and the Tosefta hold, You're not noiheg any avelos whatsoever on Shabbos, even dvarim Shabbatina. Why? Sunday is not makeup. Sunday is Tisha B'Av. Shabbos is Shabbos Kodesh. Untouchable. It's not that Shabbos is Tisha B'Av, but what can we do? We cannot fulfill all the practices of Tisha B'Av on Shabbos, so we push it off. Shabbos is nothing. Shabbos is a regular Shabbos. So says the Ksav Sofer in number 3, and we'll see if we could see what we just said in his words. It's not so clear. He says, Hamura mikol zeh. What emerges is the Rebbe Spirale, the like Rabbi Yochanan. Rebbe does not agree with Rabbi Yochanan. Rebbe holds that Tisha B'Av really should be on the 9th. V'gam Rabbanon efshir d'hachi Spirale, and the Rabbanon really agreed to Rebbe that Tisha B'Av be'etzim should be on the 9th. Elo d'loi hoyduloi, they don't agree to him. Levatel v'lilchois mikol, to push it off completely when it comes out on Shabbos. V'naktinon hachi, they hold the following: the ikare b'tshi. The Rabbanon hold really Tisha B'Av should be on the 9th. Uchshenidcha, and when it's pushed off, al karchach l'kaimai kol ha'efshar. We try to fulfill it as much as possible. Hagam de'einzman avelos kol kach, even though it's not really the full zman of avelos. Well, Rabbi Yochanan, and according to Rabbi Yochanan, not boichu. It's just the opposite. Ikaroi ba'asiri. Rabbi Yochanan holds when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, really, Tisha B'Av be'etzim should have been Sunday. Elo shekvar teknu b'tshi. But what could we do? We made it on the 9th because that's when the fire was ignited. Uchshenidchel yom asiri miskayim be'itoy u'bizmanoi. Rabbi Yochanan holds that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos and you're making Sunday, it should have anyway been Sunday. But we had some side reason to make it the day before. Why? Because that's when it was ignited. But if luckily you could have a year that Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, then once in a while Tisha B'Av will be the right day. So it comes out when Tisha B'Av is a nidche, for Rebbe and the Rabbanon, it's more lenient. For Rabbi Yochanan, when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av on Sunday is more chomer than any other year. You hear this? Rabbi Yochanan would say this year Tisha B'Av is more chomer than any other year. Because finally we have Tisha B'Av on the right day.
What way is it more chomer than any other?
In no way. Just in thought. In other words, finally we're observing the restrictions on the day that the majority of the Beis HaMikdash burnt down. In other words, maybe Rabbi Yochanan would say, this year we feel the Avelos more. Now we don't paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. But then the Ksav Sofer goes on to say that this really is a major chakira in understanding what happens to Tisha B'Av in general when it comes out on Shabbos. So if you look at number 4, there's a contemporary sefer called Elahim Mayadoi, and he brings down this chakira of the Ksav Sofer. Let's take a look inside very briefly. Uv'shal Shuvas Ksav Sofer Bi'ar Machlekes B'Hagdaras Yom Zeh Shu Mincha MiShabbos Yom Rishon. Ksav Sofer explains the Machlekes based on the conceptual idea of what happens when it's pushed off to Sunday. In Perushe Hushanu Doichem Azazan Zamachrasai, do we push it off? V'ainu Shema Machras Hu Tashlum in LaShabbos, is Sunday makeup? Aidilma Einoi Begeder Tashlum in LaShabbos, or maybe it's not makeup. El Shechachamim Akru Yom Zel Lagarim Shabbos. The rabbis completely uprooted Tisha B'Av, and they resituated it and re-established it on Sunday. Reinstituted. Sunday is not makeup. Sunday is Tisha B'Av. As if kilo nikbal lekach mitchatchila. As Rabbi Yochanan in fact would commend by saying, anyway, that's the correct day for Tisha B'Av. So the Sefer Elahei Mayadai points out, next paragraph, Meyata F. Shalom, now we could explain, Dim yesh loy din shel nidche. If Sunday has a din of a nidche, vu tashlumin l'Shabbos, then really Tisha B'Av came out when? On Shabbos. So then on Shabbos you have to be noyeg dvarim shabatzino, tashma shamita would be asur, like the Ramah and the Ashkenazim are machmir. But if it has a din of it doesn't have a din of a nidcha. It's the rabbis took Tisha B'Av and this year they made it on Sunday. There are no dinei avelos noyeg on Shabbos whatsoever, even dvarim shabatzino. Now, regarding this issue, how do we paskin? Do we hold that really it's established, really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, but what can we do? We can't be noyeg, so we push it off? Or do we say, no, it was nekar legamri, and it's Sunday? Well, it sounds like Meikar Hadin, the Mechaber Paskins. It's completely uprooted, it's made on Sunday. The Ramah, however, brings the other opinion. So it seems like we're machmir, that Be'etzem, Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, but we push it off. I'll ask you another very interesting shayla. It almost happened to me. I just missed it. Let's say you have a kid. His birthday is Tisha B'Av. Feel bad. Yeah? Yirmiyahu Hanavi, right? He was born on Tisha B'Av. And what if his bar mitzvah year... Excuse me. A bar mitzvah boy, his bar mitzvah is Yud Av, the day after Tisha B'Av. And this year, let's say it's his bar mitzvah, Yud Av. So comes Yud Av, it's his bar mitzvah, does he have to fast? Now, very interesting, when it comes to the Dalat Hanesim, there's no din chinuch on fasting for the Dalat Hanesim. Rav Shlomo Zalman said this idea that you fast 3 times before your bar mitzvah, Lo Haya v'Lo Nivra, when it comes to the Dalat Hanesim of Avelos. There's no chinuch on Avelos. So let's say the kid's bar mitzvah is on Yud Av. Does he fast Tisha B'Av? Does he not fast Tisha B'Av? What would you say? It depends on the chakira. If Sunday is a makeup for Shabbos, the kid was never obligated in Shabbos. He wasn't obligated in Tisha B'Av. So what? He doesn't have to make up tainus. He was never mechuyeven. Yesterday he wasn't a bar mitzvah boy. He doesn't have to make up a fast. He was never obligated. He would not have to fast on Sunday. Today's only a makeup for yesterday. Yesterday he wasn't a bar chiyuva. But if you say no, this year the Chachamim were not koiveya Tisha B'Av on test. They were koiveya like Rabbi Yochanan on Yud. So the kid's a bar mitzvah today. He has to fast today. So who asked the Shaila? Shaila Sechuvas Marsham, Chela Gimel, Simin Shin Samach Gimel. Mechtavai Higiyani. I got your letter. Dal derech Sheilasai B'Tisha B'Av Shechal B'Shabbos. Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. V'nidchel Yom Echad. V'haya Echad Katan. V'higdil B'Yom Aleph. He grew up on Sunday. He became a gadol on Sunday. Shenasa Az Ben Yud Gimel Shom Yom Echad. In Chayev Lehisanes Yom Aleph. Oy name. Do we say he's Chayev on Sunday? After all, Sunday is bar mitzvah. Oy nema Kivan Durak Tashlum Tisha B'Av. And he was pater for the Iker day. He should be pater for this day. Guess what the Marsham says? Marsham says it depends on the Chakira of the Ksav Sofer. Do we view Sunday make up for Shabbos? And since he was pater on Shabbos, he was not a gadol on Shabbos, he doesn't have to fast on Sunday? Or do we say, this year, Tisha B'Av is on Sunday, he'd be chayev? Says the Marsham, Meikar Hadin we hold, like the Mechaber, and like the Rosh, and like the Tosefta, that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av. That this year the Chachamim were Masakein, Tisha B'Av is Sunday. This year we go like Rabbi Yochanan, that since Rubai Shel Heichal was Nisraf Ba'asiri, Tisha B'Av this year is not on the 9th, it's on the 10th. And therefore, bottom line, a kid who becomes a bar mitzvah this year on Sunday would have to fast on Tisha B'Av.
So Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av.
Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av.
So then why Tashmish would be also according to that?
It would be a chumrah. You're right. It would be a chumrah. In other words, we're maintaining meikar hadin. Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av, and we're being machmir a little bit regarding right. That's how the Marsham paskins meikar hadin. Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av. The Ramah is machmir on Tashmish Hamita. It would be begeder chumrah. Because halacha l'maisa, if it's leil tefillah, we paskin leil tefillah is mutter on Tisha B'Av. Even though, would the or Zarua say it's mutter? I don't know. Or if somebody is going on a journey or just came back. In other words, it's a chumrah. We're not yigim b'taras chumrah, but if there's a mitigating circumstance, it would be permitted. So that's another nafkamina in this chakira would be a kid who became a bar mitzvah on Sunday this year.
If this case, like this Sunday, is there any hater different than if it would be actually on the...
Yeah, we'll get to that in the end.
How do you remember this on Sunday? I don't understand.
What? How does a kid become bar mitzvah?
On Sunday.
He was born on Yud Av.
I hear it. Oh.
He was born on Yud Av. This year Yud Av is his bar mitzvah, right? Okay. Rabbi say, I'll tell you another nafkamina. We know there's something in halacha called Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. So for Ashkenazim, there are not that many nafkaminas because we're noyeg. We don't take haircuts. We don't shave for 3 weeks. We don't eat meat already from Rosh Chodesh. We don't do laundry from Rosh Chodesh. But Medina de Gemara, there's something called Shvua Shechaba, which means Medina de Gemara, only the week of Tisha B'Av you're not allowed to take a haircut. Only the week of Tisha B'Av maybe you don't eat meat. Even for us it has nafkaminas. Let's say somebody for Parnasa has to shave. Right? So Rav Moshe says that during the 3 weeks, the Chachamim, we're only noyeg not to shave if it doesn't affect Parnasa. But if it affects Parnasa, you're allowed to shave during the 3 weeks, but not the week of Tisha B'Av. That's what Moshe says. The week of Tisha B'Av is Dina de Gemara. You can't be lenient. You can be lenient in the minhag because they were not noyeg the minhag regarding if it would affect the Parnasa, but not the week of Tisha B'Av. So I have a question for you. This year, when's the week of Tisha B'Av? Is there a week of Tisha B'Av? If Tisha B'Av would fall out on a Sunday, there would be no week of Tisha B'Av. Right? If the 9th of Av is Sunday, there is no week of Tisha B'Av, and someone who has a job and they have to shave, they could shave up until Shabbos. But this year, Tisha B'Av is not Sunday, Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. Shabbos? Well, it's the week before Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Is this week Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av? If somebody's job is in jeopardy, would they be allowed to shave this week? What would you say? Depends on the chakira. If when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, it's really Shabbos is Tisha B'Av. But what can we do? We have to make it up on Sunday. Sunday is just a make-up, but Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. Then this week would be Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. But if when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we go like Rabbi Yochanan, that this year Tisha B'Av is Sunday, there is no Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. How do we paskin? We paskin, this year Tisha B'Av is Sunday, there is no Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Who paskins this way? Shulchan Aruch. Take a look at number 7. La'achar hatainis, after a fast day, mutter right? In other words, the whole idea of Shvua Shechal by Tisha was only the week before, not the week after. So after the fast, mutter l'saper, you could take a haircut, or l'chavz, you could do laundry miyad immediately. V'yim chal Tisha B'Av b'yom rishon, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Sunday, oy b'Shabbos, or even if it comes out on Shabbos, v'nidche la'achar Shabbos, mutter b'shtei ha-Shabbosos. It's mutter both the week after and the week before. Bein shekoyim atainis, before the fast, bein she'achrav. Because the Mechaber in the first opinion holds that if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos and we push it off to Sunday, that year Tisha B'Av is Sunday and there's no Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. V'yesh mi she'omer, but there's another opinion. She'no'agu la'asar, that the minhag is to asar kol Shvua Shelafanov, the whole week before, except for Thursday and Friday, the Kavod Shabbos. So actually the Mechaber brings down 2 opinions. One opinion is there is no week of Tisha B'Av the week before. And another opinion is there is a week of Tisha B'Av the week before. What's the machlokes? Machlokes is how do you view when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos? The first opinion holds when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you can't be noyeg avelos on Shabbos. It is not Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av this year is the 10th, like Rabbi Yochanan would say. Anyway, the majority of the Beis Hamikdash burnt down on the 10th. The Yesh Mi She'omer holds no. Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. But what can we do? We cannot be Noyeg Avilas and Farhesi on Shabbos, so we make it up on Sunday. But the week of Shur Shechal by Tisha B'Av is the week before. So how did I say before we paskin Tisha B'Av is Sunday? He brings down two opinions. So there's this a very important klal in learning Shulchan Aruch. That whenever the Mechaber brings down an opinion, and then he brings down Yesh Mi She'omer, who do you follow? The first opinion. The first opinion is Stama. Second opinion is Yesh Mi She'omer. So Mechaber says Stam, there is no Shur Shechal by Tisha B'Av, and then he says Yesh Mi She'omer. Yeah, there is a Yesh Mi She'omer. We already know who that Yesh Mi She'omer is. We know that's the Yesh Mi She'omer is Marami Rothenburg, and the Yesh Mi She'omer is Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. They hold that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we make it up on Sunday. But Ba'atzem, Shabbos is Tisha B'Av, and therefore the week before is Shvur Shechal by Tisha B'Av. But bottom line, halach l'mais, I heard from Poskim this year, whatever basis there is to be lenient during the 9 days, that's not Shvur Shechal by Tisha B'Av, you could utilize this year, this week, because this Be'etzem we hold that there is no Shvur Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Be'etzem we hold like the Rosh, like the Mechaber in Siman Tav Kuf Nun Daled, and like the Mechaber says here very clearly in Tav Kuf Nun Aleph.
And in this Shulchan Aruch, they're talking about Tisha B'Av itself coming on Sunday as well.
Well, yeah, if Tisha B'Av comes on Sunday, there's nothing to talk about. Of course, there's no Shvur Shechal by Tisha B'Av the week before. There is no week before. But he's also talking about Oy B'Shabbos. He's talking about both cases.
So how does it work in the second case? In other words, he's giving the case of Sunday Tisha B'Av.
Right, Sunday Tisha B'Av, or it's
Are we make them on the Thursday and Friday? Are they make them? Or, I mean, are they Achmed the whole week? And Thursday
in the first opinion or the second opinion?
Second.
Second opinion, the second opinion holds we're machmer the week before.
When? For both cases? For Tisha being on Sunday or Tisha being on Shabbos? Or only for one case or what?
Oh. I mean, is it only if it came out on Shabbos?
The language is for both.
I know, but I think it's only if Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. Otherwise, if it came out on Sunday, why would you be no. You want to pass me a Mishnah Baruch Yak Vav? I don't think we're if Tisha B'Av came out on Sunday, I don't think we would be machmer on the week before. I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Okay. That's what I think. Okay. So that's the third nafka. So far, three nafkaminas. One nafkamina is dvarim shabatzina on Shabbos, and that is if Tisha B'Av is just made up on Sunday, you would have to be noyeg dvarim shabatzina on Shabbos. But if Tisha B'Av is nekar lagamre and established on Sunday, you would not have to be noyeg dvarim shabatzina on Shabbos. Second nafkamina is if a katan became a gadol on Sunday. If Tisha B'Av is completely uprooted, he would have to fast on Sunday. If Tisha B'Av is just a makeup, so he would not have to. And the third nafkamina would be whether there is Shvur Shechal by Tisha B'Av if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. Okay? Two more nafkaminas.
What's the distinction between Noagin and Yeshom? So you say that the rule of thumb in Shulchan Aruch is that if he says Yeshom, the halacha is the way to the but the Ramah comes down and says, I don't know.
In the Ramah, this V'noy again is not really affecting.
In general.
In general?
The word Noagin is how is it different than Yeshom? You see the question?
Yeah. In the Ramah, there's a difference between Noyagin and Yesh Nohagu and V'yesh Oisrim. Yesh Oisrim means he's bringing down an opinion that argues lahalacha. Noyagin means let's say for instance number 2, he says V'yesh Oisrim. So that's more than just the chumrah, it would seem. Okay, 1 second. Sif Daled. Lamed Ches. Yeah, like I said, it's only if it came out on Shabbos. If it comes out on Sunday, there's for sure no Isser the week before. Okay. Let's move on to the next nafkamina. Okay, there's a halacha that we do not learn Torah on Tisha B'Av because Torah makes you happy. Not only because you fall asleep, really actually learning makes you happy. The actual learning, being awake, makes you happy. Fine. Why? Pikudei Hashem Yesharim Mesamche Lev. Mesamche Lev. What about Erev Tisha B'Av? What about Erev Tisha B'Av? Doesn't say anywhere in the Gemara anything about Erev Tisha B'Av. No reason to assume you can't learn Erev Tisha B'Av. You're allowed to eat Erev Tisha B'Av, Baruch Hashem. You're allowed to drink. You're allowed to wash it. Right? There are no Yisurim Erev Tisha B'Av. And yet there's a minhag not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av from Chatzos. Okay, look in the Rambam number 9. B'noagu shaloi lomoid be'erev Tisha B'Av me'chatzos ve'elach. There's a minhag not to learn Chatzos and on Erev Tisha B'Av. Kiyim b'dvar ma'matar b'Tisha B'Av. Only those things you're allowed to learn on Tisha B'Av itself could you learn Erev Tisha B'Av from Chatzos. And therefore, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, or even if Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we don't learn Pirkei Avos on Shabbos. And you're not allowed to go for a stroll. Another halach is you don't stroll around Erev Tisha B'Av. Fine. Okay, so now the Ramah just said a minhag not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. Says the Mishnah Berurah number 10. Why? Because Torah makes you happy. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this is not an Isser, this is not Midina, because Midina, you're even allowed to wear shoes on Erev Tisha B'Av. You're allowed to eat, so certainly allowed to learn Torah. But the Mishnah Berurah says it's just like a chumrah ba'alma, it's just a minhag, because there are other options. Eating, you have no alternative. It's not like, instead of eating, I'll inhale air, and that will take the place of eating. Eating, you got to eat. But learning, so learn bar kamsa, learn eicha. There are alternatives. Says the Mishnah Berurah, many achronim like this minhag of not learning Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. However, the Mishnah Berurah says on the 4th line, there are many achronim that challenge this minhag very much. First and foremost, the Marshal. Marshal says, you know how much I like this minhag? I don't care about it. I myself learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. And not only that, he told other people they could also learn after Chatzos. The Gra also said, this is too much of a chumrah. It's a chumrah yisera. The Maimer Mordechai says, I don't like this minhag. It brings too much bittul Torah. You're going to tell people, you have to learn eicha. I have my seder. I'm learning right now. I'm learning daf yomi. I'm up to this daf. Every day I learn one plot. I don't care. I learn my thing. I have a seder. You're going to start legislating what people learn. People are just going to be mavato from Torah. They're going to be surfing the you-know-what all day. And therefore the Maimer Mordechai says, you want to learn Gezun Teheit. And he himself learned. And the Chayei also said it's only a chumrah, and therefore the Mishnah Berurah concludes that if you want to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, we will not be moicha. Which means, bottom line is, if you ask the Chavetz Chaim, what does he hold? He holds that if you're able to keep the minhag Yisrael of not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, if you're able to, if it doesn't affect you negatively, and it won't undermine, it won't lessen your learning, so then try to keep the minhag Yisrael. If you feel it will challenge your ability to learn properly, then ein moicha miyadai. What about if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos? The Ramah seem to hold you cannot learn the whole day. Or is it maybe only after Chatzos? So says the Mishnah Berurah that when the Ramah says that if it falls out on Shabbos, it means even if Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you don't say Pirkei Avos after Chatzos. And then the Mishnah Berurah says, the Taz says that this idea of curtailing learning on Shabbos, he doesn't buy into at all. That if Shabbos is Erev Tisha B'Av and you want to learn after Chatzos, lo hifsid scharoi. Even if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. The Taz is of the opinion that if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, learn to your heart's desire. You could say Pirkei Avos after Mincha. You want to learn Shev Shmaitza, you want to learn K'tzais HaChoshen, you want to learn Avnei Miluim, you want to learn the Marcheshes, you want to learn Chidusha of Shimon Shkop, Gezun Teheit. But you're going to be dancing and you're going to be so happy. It's Shabbos. The Taz argues on the Ramah. The Ramah says on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av or Erev Tisha B'Av, you curtail your learning. The Taz says you do not curtail your learning. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you want to be Samech on the Taz, you want to learn on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av, which is Erev Tisha B'Av, You're allowed to rely on the
So why
Taz.
can't you learn on a regular Erev Tisha B'Av? It's simcha, but it's not. So why is that?
On a regular Erev Tisha B'Av, there's an inyan not to learn. It's a minhag not to learn. We'll see why.
Oh, okay.
But on Shabbos, the Taz disagrees with Rama, and the Taz says there's no inyan to curtail your learning at all on Shabbos. By the way,
Cycling from something else.
is what is Kasei there? What, it stopped already?
Would be Gimel.
So you mean you push it off?
I think so.
Maybe the minhag is like the Rama. That's what the Rama says. But if you wanna, in other words, it's not mandatory. The Mishnah Berurah says that he's not imposing the Chumrah of the Rama. By the way, the Bir Halacha quotes the Maimer Mordechai in full length, and the Maimer Mordechai is really very interesting. He says that if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you don't say Pirkei Avos. And the Maimer Mordechai says this psak is Tamua. And the Magen Avram himself holds like the Rama. And the Magen Avram, actually, we're going to see very soon, the Magen Avram has a chakira that if Tisha B'Av comes out on... We know on a regular Erev Tisha B'Av, you don't learn after Chatzos. That's the minhag. If Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, the Magen Avram has a chakira in the Ramah, maybe you can't learn the whole day. Because it's Tisha B'Av. Just like Devarim Shebet Sinna, we're machmir on even from Friday night, not learning is also Devarim Shebet Sinna. The Magen Avram has a side you can't learn the whole day. Or maybe it's only like a regular Erev Tisha B'Av and you only don't learn from Chatzos and on. By the way, the Maimer Mordechai says an amazing thing. He says, to tell people that you can't learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, I can't agree with. He said, you could learn Dvarim HaMutarim. Says the Maimer Mordechai, Kwan the Ber Halacha, I hold that's not enough. Because a person could only learn what he wants to learn. Tell a person, you want to learn, no problem. You have to learn Krisus, the Abdalid, Amid Aleph, the bottom Toisus. Don't tell me what to learn. I'll learn what I want to learn. You're going to tell me, I can't learn that way. I can't learn. With the Marsha, learn the Marsha. According to the Maram Shif's explanation of it. Don't tell me what to learn. I can't enjoy it. I'm not going to learn anything then. If you're going to start telling people they have to learn Gittin, Nun Hey Yom Beis, Kamsa Bar Kamsa, they're not going to learn anything. And we see, says the Maimer Mordechai, Kama Talmidei Chacham Besrashim B'Limud HaMutar B'Yom Tisha B'Av. Don't we see so many Talmidei Chachamim? What do they do on Tisha B'Av? They don't do anything. They watch these videos. Why? Why don't they learn? Because it's tsar to tell them they have to learn Moed Katan, the last parak. Says the Maimer Mordechai, count me among those Talmidei Chachamim that are Misrasha. V'gam ani ba'am nasen ram ke'echa mehem. V'lachein eini choishesh l'svara zu. I don't hold you now to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. I don't hold you now to learn Shabbos Tisha B'Av. I hold you're allowed to learn Erev Tisha B'Av up till Tisha B'Av. And if I wouldn't be afraid, I would be mavatil the halacha that you're now to learn on Tisha B'Av. If I wouldn't be afraid of what they would think about me, because what are people doing? They spend the whole day going shopping. What kind of omelets they're going to make when Tisha B'Av are over? You're allowed to do that? You're not allowed to do that. Spending an hour deciding what type of onion to buy. What kind of Danish are they going to buy? That's better than learning. You're telling me they're involved, they're so immersed in the Churban while they're choosing their meal, their breakfast meal. Halavai, says the Maimer Mordechai, people are just going around being matayel b'shvakim, masichin, sichas chulin. Says the Maimer Mordechai, we know the Yushalmi brings down that if he would have the ability, he would have matered malacha on Chol HaMoed, the Yushalmi says. What's the reason why malacha is asar on Chol HaMoed? It's only so people should learn Torah. But now what do people do on Chol HaMoed? They go to the zoo. So if anyway people are going to the zoo, they might as well go to work. What, the zoo is better? There's a certain kedusha, there's a roimamus of seeing animals. You can't even think of, at least when you go to work, you're allowed to think of learning. When you go to the zoo, you can't even learn, right? Zoo Torah, zoo schara. Right? So, therefore, the Yerushalmi says they would be, if it would be up to them, they would matir malacha on Chol Hamoed.
Great to speak out. He's speaking out now anyway.
Yeah, so, but to have the kayit to be mavatal, and therefore, if he would have the kayach, certainly he would be mavatal the isra of learning, and therefore, he says in Torah, but what can we do? It's an isra and shas. We can't be mekel on isra bar and shas. But erev Tisha B'av, which is not mentioned in shas, is only a minhag. He will not buy into it, and therefore, if somebody, he says like this. Somebody who could force themselves to learn Kamsa Bar Kamsa Nachamal, then Kadosh Yamar Lai. But if someone is not able to learn that on Erev Tisha B'av, the Maimon Mordechai says, you don't have to. Comes a Chsam Sofer, I just want to bring out. Now this is very interesting. The Gemara only says you're not allowed to learn Torah on Tisha B'av itself. It makes no mention of the Yisr of not learning Torah on Erev Tisha B'av. Why would you not be allowed to learn Torah on Erev Tisha B'av? On Tisha B'av itself, what's more chamor? Wearing leather shoes or learning? Wearing leather shoes is in the Mishnah. Learning, so if you're allowed to wear leather shoes on Erev Tisha B'av, certainly you should be allowed to learn. What's the inyan of not learning Erev Tisha B'av? So Chsam Sofer says very interesting svara. He brings down a svara here in Arachaim Siman Kuf Nun Vav, that whatever you learn from Chatzos in the day and on, your head is still thinking about it at night. So it's not that you're not learning Erev Tisha B'av because you're being noyeg a certain degree of avelos on Erev Tisha B'av. It's that we're afraid that if you get involved in some learning Erev Tisha B'av, your mind will be occupied learning it on Tisha B'av. If you wear leather shoes Erev Tisha B'av, it's not like your feet will be soothed by those leather shoes even while you're wearing your non-leather shoes. But if whatever you learn on Erev Tisha B'av, it's still, filtering through your head on Tisha B'av itself, and that's the reason for the minhag. However, the Chsam Sofer says, he brings down the Magen Avram's Chakira. The Magen Avram, and this is on the third line in the Chsam Sofer number 12, he brings down the Magen Avram's Chakira and Tav Kuf Nun Gimel. Magen Avram wants to know, when the Ramah says we don't learn Erev Tisha B'av, when Tisha B'av comes out on Shabbos, again, like this year, the Ramah says, Tisha B'av that comes out on Shabbos, the Ramah says we don't say Perkei Avos, and we don't learn. Is it that we don't learn from Chatzos and on like every Erev Tisha B'av? Or is that we don't learn the whole day? Magen Avram has it sad that when Tisha B'av comes out on Shabbos, you don't learn the whole day. Says the Chsam Sofer, what's this Chakira based on? Chakira is based on the above mentioned Chakira. How do we view Tisha B'av that comes out on Shabbos? If we view it when Tisha B'av comes out on Shabbos, really Tisha B'av is Shabbos. Sunday is only makeup. But whatever we're allowed to be noyeg on Shabbos, you should be noyeg on Shabbos, like we're noyeg Devarim Shabbatzin on Shabbos. So Magen Ram would say, well, maybe then you can't learn the whole Shabbos because it's Tisha B'av, and nobody will know you're not being noyeg avelos b'farhesia. Therefore, the Magen Avram has it sad what that you can't learn the whole day on Shabbos. Or do we say no? This year, when Tisha B'av comes out on Shabbos, it's not Tisha B'av. This year, Tisha B'av is Sunday. So then you could learn on Shabbos, but it's like every Erev Tisha B'av that what? From Chatzos and on, you can't learn. Says the Chsam Sofer, how do we paskin? So you should know already, based on what we learned, how do we paskin? Be'ikar, me'ikar adin. Is Tisha B'av this year Shabbos, or is Tisha B'av this year Nekar and reestablished on Sunday? It's the Yesh Misha Oimer that says Sunday is a makeup. But Be'ikar we hold that Tisha B'av is Nekar and pushed off to Sunday. Therefore the Chsam Sofer says, Umeata ani Oimer, the last lines, Bevadai l'mayde kaimalon, Tisha B'av b'Shabbos nidche l'machar. We hold Tisha B'av is completely uprooted. Imkain ein kan ella Erev Tisha B'av. This year Shabbos is not Tisha B'av, it's Erev Tisha B'av. Umutter b'Talmud Torah. You're allowed to learn in the morning, except after Chatzos you have the Chumrah of the Rama. But this would also be another nafkamina based on the Chakira that we mentioned. I'm going to tell you one final nafkamina, and that is like this. The Shulchan Aruch says in Arachem Siman Tav Kuf Nun Tes, Tisha B'av that comes out on Shabbos, pushed off to Sunday. If you are a Baal Bris, one of my brother-in-laws made a bris a couple years ago on Tisha B'av, on Sunday. If you're the Baal Bris, if you're the father of the Rachanimol, you daven mincha during the day. In other words, mincha gedola. You take a shower, and you don't fast. You don't fast.
You stop the fast.
Stop the fast.
You stop the fast.
You stop the fast. When you eat food. You eat your omelet with the onions that you were shopping for. Yeah. The bris will be later.
So after
The bris will be on Tisha B'av.
On Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
Right.
you don't
And
make it in the morning.
The Suda will
After the kinnis,
Right. Soon it'll be everything.
by mincha time, and the Suda for everyone will be after the fast, but you don't fast. Why not? Now I have a question for you. If the Tisha B'av is a regular Tuesday, and what? You have a bris, you don't break the fast on the bris. So why would you do it on this year?
Because it's an itcha.
No, but he's saying no. That's not.
Who goes according to Pshat.
So this is a little bit of a contradictory, right? Because the Mechaber holds that when Tisha B'av comes out on Shabbos and Tisha B'av is Sunday, that year Tisha B'av is Sunday. So then why could we be Mekel? The answer is, even though that year Tisha B'av is Sunday, but that means this year Tisha B'av is not the time it would ordinarily be. So it still has a degree of leniency. It still has an element of leniency. In other words, it's not mamish like Tisha B'av is that day. It still has a degree of leniency. So in other words, but this may affect, in other words, the idea that you could be Mekel on this year may be resultant in the idea that it is somewhat of a makeup. Even if you say this year it was established on Sunday, but okay. This is an important leniency to know. Normally a mubaras has to fast on Tisha B'av. Right? Normally a pregnant woman, a nursing woman, Tisha B'av they have to fast. The other Tanesim, there's more room for leniency, but Tisha B'av is more chamor. However, there's a Bir Halacha. The Bir Halacha says that someone who is a choyli k'tzas, someone who's a little bit ill, a little bit, he's not enough al mishkov, he's a little bit ill, or a pregnant woman that's not feeling so good, they don't fast at all. Why? If Tisha B'av this year is Sunday, so then if Tisha B'av would be a Tuesday, the mubaras would have to fast. So why not if Tisha B'av would be Sunday? So here, regarding these halachos, it's like we're lenient and we're taking the approach that it's makeup. Not that it was nikva like this originally, but that it's makeup. But these, again, where the purpose of the shiur is not halach lamaisa, but it's to gain an understanding that there are two viewpoints of how do we view Tisha B'av that comes out on Shabbos. Do we view it that really Tisha B'av is Shabbos, Sunday is the makeup for whatever dinim we can't be noying on Shabbos? Or do we view it, no, this year like Rabbi Yochanan always wanted Tisha B'av to be on the 10th. This year, we're allowed, where we could follow his opinion. And in that case, it comes out there are certain leniencies. Like the Mechaber said, there's no Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'av this year. Right? Because Tisha B'av the Iker is Sunday. Or the Shitas HaMechaber is Dvarim Shabbatzina are not Noyeg. Or we are lenient that we allow learning on Shabbos this year before Chatzos. But there are certain chumras that we take, and namely the Ashkenazim are makvid on Dvarim Shabbatzina, and there are certain leniencies on the other way that a mubaras or somebody who makes a bris are noyeg that they don't fast on Tisha B'av. Rabbi say we should be zoichet soim hachamishi yia lebeis yidol sasan u'lesimchol mayadim.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.